to the Cope.Care.Connect podcast. I am your host, Urooba, and together we will dive into the human perspective of coping, caring, and connecting. Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode. I am your host, Urooba, and I'm in my third year at Brock studying biomedical sciences. I'm working with CopeCareConnect in providing a resource that helps to improve different aspects of physical, social, and mental health of our community and have a conversation about its determinants on human experiences of coping, caring, and connecting. That's essentially what this podcast is going to be about. And each guest is going to pick a pledge from the CopeCareConnect website. So on today's episode, we have Haley Turnbull, and I'll let Haley introduce herself.
Thanks, Urooba. So my name's Haley Turnbull. I use the pronoun she, her, hers. I'm joining the pod from Kelowna, BC, which is the traditional unceded territories of the Syilx-speaking Okanagan peoples. So I am joining as a master's student from Brock, but I'm also an evaluation specialist for a nonprofit called Foundry BC. And it's foundrybc.ca if you're wondering what we do.
What is Foundry BC about in just like a general term?
Yeah, so we are a network of youth health clinics. We provide everything from mental health, physical health, sexual health, social services, and everything in between.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the pledge that we picked.
Okay, so I chose.
Yeah, I just followed through with it, but yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I chose the writing down something positive about myself every day. Mm-hmm. And I chose it because I have practiced gratefulness in the past, but I found that I was kind of getting further and further away from things being like grateful for myself, and it was more like grateful for the things around me. And so I was interested in seeing whether sort of being more introspective would affect sort of my mood and mental health at all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I feel like so we've been doing this for about 2 weeks now. We've been writing down everything positive about ourselves for 2 weeks now. And so have you ever done this before, in your life, ever write down something positive, even if it's for a project?
I do it every day.
Really?
Yeah. Great. So I in the past have struggled with some anxiety, and this is one of the strategies that helps me to cope with that. Mm-hmm. Certainly as a graduate student, there's certain stressors that are present that it can cause some hardship in terms of making sure that your mental health is being prioritized. So I every single day I write down in a little journal, and it's called my little gratefulness journal. And really cool. Up until I took the pledge, I was writing down things like, living in a beautiful area or having a wonderful job that I love. And what this pledge sort of allowed me to do was turn that more inward. So thinking about the things that I like about myself, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it was definitely my first time doing this, and I noticed a lot of changes. I actually found it really, really hard to write down good things about myself. You would think that it's a pledge that it would take you a minute or so, but sometimes I would just be sitting down with my book and I would just be trying to think of something to write. I never knew it's gonna be that challenging for me.
Totally. And did you find there were some days where you were like, oh yeah, I'm amazing, and then other days where you're like, I cannot think of a single word.
Right? Some days, in the middle of the day, I would know exactly what to write for my pledge at night. Because I was like, yeah, that's amazing. But then again, some days I would just be sitting there for 10 minutes just to be like, what do I even write? And you know what I noticed? That when it comes to negative things, I could list out 10 within a minute. But when it comes to positive, it's just so much harder. And so I think it's because of the way that obviously as we have grown up, the society it's always focused on the negative, even with other people. And I think that's something we kind of taken in internally and applied it to ourselves and just kind of noticed negative things about ourselves rather than positive.
Totally. That sort of criticalness of ourselves. And like I said, some days it's definitely more difficult than others, but you're totally right. on those bad days, I could fill an entire page of things that I want to change, or, things that
Right?
I wish were different about myself. And I think part of what made this pledge so helpful and interesting was you are actually forcing your brain to think about,
Mm.
the good things, and what sort of motivates you to be that way.
Right? Yes, I agree. And so how did you feel like after, let's say, like after the 2 weeks, even like right after you write down one positive thing about yourself, like how would you describe that feeling?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because I think on the good days, it's like you're already kind of feeling good about yourself. So you write it
Yeah.
down and you're like, yeah, like did it, and you still feel good. And then on the days that you don't feel so good and you're having a really hard time coming up with something, when you do finally think of something, it kind of like improves your day. And I
Right?
don't know what time you were doing yours at, but I did mine all like at night right before bed.
Same, yeah.
And I found it just kind of like helped me reset a little bit and like leave the day and sort of look forward to the next day. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
agree. Yes. I think that it just definitely like for even on the rough days when I'm like, being super hard on myself, putting a lot of pressure and or something just has happened that kind of turned my mood around. It would just be something that I'm looking forward to. And when I would write something down, it would just kind of change my perspective. And yeah, you're right. It would be just like a reset. Like I would wake up in the morning feeling a lot more refreshed, because I have a different view of myself now. So I definitely think that this pledge is I actually recommended it to a lot of my friends and my cousins and my sisters, and I told them to do it at the same time as me. And I was talking to them earlier, and they all told me about how like it actually did make them feel a lot better. It helps some, like a lot of us, with from stress, anxiety, and not just that. I think something one of my friends said that it helped her physical state as well, not just mental. So what do you have to say
Mhm.
about that? Like, what do you think?
Do you know what's actually wild? And I was just thinking about this. Like, so I was I'm training to run a 10K,
Oh
which
my
like
God. Wow.
I don't run at all. So let's just put that out there.
Okay, can
Sorry,
I just
Kelly.
say, can I just say I'm training to run a 5K and I don't run at all.
That's
I have like,
amazing.
yeah,
But
50.
I found like not talking about, but like writing this stuff down, I
Yeah.
actually, and I don't know if it was a direct effect or just something that, something else was happening, but I have been so much more motivated to go and do my training runs, even though it's been freezing and snowing.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because I've sort of now tricked my brain into thinking like I actually love my body, and because I love my body, I'm going to go and do what I need to do to make sure that I'm
Exactly.
giving it what
Exactly.
it needs. And it's such an interesting thing, because I think a lot of us, certainly folks that I know,
Yeah.
we exercise and we do these things because we want to change
Change.
something,
Yeah, exactly. Like I
right?
think it stems from hate, right? Dislike towards our
Totally.
body is we want to work out, we want to do this. And I completely agree with you because I just started recently working out, and it was because like I noticed that when I have this positive image of myself, that's when I noticed, okay, since I love my body, I'm gonna treat it right and I'm gonna, work out for it. It wasn't as if to change it or to look a certain way. It was more to just make sure I'm healthy and strong. And
Yeah.
it definitely does. Like it gave me a lot more life satisfaction. Like now that I look at I feel like I've also noticed that I'm beating myself down a lot less. Like I'm giving myself breaks, relaxation time, just giving myself that space. And it's definitely, I don't know if that's a direct effect again, but it plays your mind. And I think that kind of just stems from like the power of your brain, how powerful it is that it can affect your physical and mental state by just simply, writing down or thinking of yourself a little bit positively.
Can I ask? So I agree. What was something that like helped you when you were having those days where it felt like you couldn't write anything down? What
Mm.
helped you like figure it out?
Wow, that's a great question. Honestly, I would actually look at my past and I would look at things that I've dealt with and I would write down those qualities that made me kind of get through a lot of those things. So it would more so, for example, my ability to cope with some certain things and my ability to logically analyze the situation and not make decisions based on my reactions or my emotions, and I think that I would look at things that I've been through and kind of analyze them and be like, yep, that's a good quality of mine. That's a good trait of mine that I was able to get through that because of things that I have or I am. What about you?
That's amazing. So I definitely use that strategy as well. And I have things written down like perseverance and like
Right?
kindness and things like that, where
Yeah,
I know that through the things that I've experienced in life, like these are the things that helped me get to where I am today.
I
But the
agree.
other
Yes.
thing that I found I was using, and it wasn't even really conscious, it was just sort of, and maybe it's like rooted in that like self-criticism or like thinking that other people are always criticizing me. I kind of asked myself, like, if I asked my mom or my dad or my brother or my friends, if I asked them what is something that you like about me,
Yeah.
what would they say?
Yeah.
And I think part
Wow.
of that sort of is reflective of like, it's hard to think of good things of ourselves because we're taught to be humble
Negative.
and have humility and
Yes.
you know what I mean?
I
And
agree.
so putting it in the perspective of like thinking about why are my friends friends with me?
Yeah. I feel
Do you
like
know
my
what I
friends
mean?
would
That
have
was
a
really
lot of dumb stuff to say at first, but I think that once you kind of make them think this
yeah.
is serious, I feel like that's such a good strategy. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. And it just kind of like came up, and again, it was on one of those hard days where I could not think of anything. And this was pretty early on.
Yeah.
I was like, how am I going to figure this out? And that's just kind of what it came to me. But I also noticed, like, as the 2 weeks went on,
Yeah.
it became a lot easier.
Yes. 100%. I feel like in the past couple of days, I knew exactly what I was gonna write. And
Yeah.
it's different than what I've written before. And it was just, it made it a lot easier. I think it's kind of, I was telling my sister, it's kind of like an unlock in your brain. That kind of opened the door to a lot of these things, and now it's so much easier. So
Mhm.
I was telling about how, like, basically this pledge, this participation in this, kind of just wired my brain to think more positively and made things so much easier.
Totally. Yeah.
Like working out, right? Like when you first start, it's so dreadful, so hard. And as you go as you keep going, and then it gets a lot easier to do a lot of the things that you were struggling with in the beginning. But yeah. So
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other part of that, and the way that it's similar to physical exercise as well, is like you start looking forward to the feeling you have when you've
yes,
done it.
yes, I agree with you. And like it's like again the satisfaction and like the gratitude or the sense of feeling that you feel after. It's really hard to put into words. It's more so it's like internal satisfaction. You feel at peace and accepted of yourself. And
Mhm.
I think that I just think this pledge was really beneficial for that. Is to, like a lot of us, especially with girls, when we grow up, we grow up with so many insecurities. Again,
Mhm.
social media plays on that. And so I think this pledge writing down, I didn't even write down just some things that are, like personality wise or trait wise. I also wrote down things like about my body that I really like. And it just definitely shifted my perspective. And now I'm more accepting of my body, because now it's like the body is like it fluctuates, and that's its ability. That's like the trait it has. That's a good thing. Like I'm
Mhm.
gaining some weight and losing some weight. That's what bodies do, and that's like the mechanisms that go inside your body, right? And so it's definitely plays a lot more than I think something so small. Just writing down something positive about yourself like every day can have such a big impact on you over the course of like just 2 weeks.
Totally. And I think like one of the cool things is like just kind of continuing that like body positivity
Yeah.
kind of lens, but like for me to write down something about my body was actually a challenge for
Mhm.
me. And part of that was like I felt weird writing
Yeah.
down things, and so I made an effort to actually write those things down because I think it's important to not just look at sort of your traits but also like your physical traits,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I
And I
agree.
actually found myself standing in front of my mirror and looking for good things,
Wow, yeah.
which is so opposite of what it normally is, which is, looking at, the wrinkles on your face or like
Right?
looking at, your body in the mirror and thinking, oh, I want to, I have to lose 5 pounds or I have to,
Right?
whatever it is. And so it was a really interesting sort of like pivot on
Mhm.
those days where I actually went and looked in the mirror to find something that I wanted to write.
Wow. Yeah. I mean
And
that
I think time that would like again start to like train your brain, right?
Yeah. So like what do you think that really helped you? Like do you think that as you stood in that mirror for longer, for a couple of days, do you think that made it easier to find good things about your body?
Totally. And I found myself looking for good things even when I wasn't looking for them.
Right? And it's like a lens. It's like a completely different lens in your eyes.
Yeah.
It's insane, yeah. And like I was just researching about like why would this have, because I am like we are like science students, so I just
Hmm.
searched up
Yeah.
why like if talking about yourself in a positive manner would have any effect, just not physically in like sense of motivation, but have any effects in type of like increase your health. And so I found that it actually improves your immune function and your cardiovascular health. And it's because that you have a better like mental skills now that allow you to problem solve much better. That kind of makes your immune system, your cardiovascular health, and like it just makes it better. Like I feel like it's because you take care of yourself much better, then it kind of just ultimately rewards you by having a better immune system or a better health. And obviously we know that like talking positively about yourself helps you with like helps reduce stress, anxiety, and it definitely like I know that one of my friends like it's told me how like for her it was just more so it was so deep for her to think to write this stuff down, and it would take like her 30 minutes or whatever, because and then you kind of notice that how bad you have been to yourself, so you kind of feel bad that why am I doing this to myself, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I think I've seen this like on social media a lot, and it's like, would you let a friend talk to you the way that you talk to yourself?
Right, yes. And it's
And
all
it's such an eye opener thinking about that. Like, absolutely not.
right? Like it's just like we're so kind and carefully and like like just say things to a lot of our friends, help them, but when we may be going through the exact same situation, but our response is completely different. And
Totally. Yeah.
so it makes me understand like why is that. And it's also this like whole this culture of hustling, this culture of like just keep going, that kind of makes us feel like we're behind, and that kind of pushes pressure on us, and we kind of blame ourselves for a lot of things. So there it's a lot to do with just societal norms. And yeah, but I think so. Would you say that you going to continue this pledge for the next like however long?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I was doing a version of it. I've been doing it for a long time. And so I think
Yeah.
having this focus, at least sort of in the back of my mind, is really helpful. And like I said, I have been doing this for a long time. And still I found that doing the pledge sort of like helped me center my reflections, right?
Yes.
So I think for sure I will continue to do this. Do
Yeah.
you think that you will also, just knowing that you didn't do it before?
Yes, I think that I think the changes it has brought in myself definitely motivates me to keep going. Like I look forward at night to just write down, things about myself, and just it would be nice to see that, for example, if I finish this for like if I do this for like a year, that'll be about 365 things about myself. That's a lot of good things about yourself. So ultimately it would lead me to like a much better perspective of myself. So I definitely think it definitely helped me in my hard days. So I'm gonna definitely keep going with that for sure. So
Yeah, I think it's
would you
such a good idea.
like connecting this to like coping and caring and connecting with others and with ourselves? What would you say that this pledge helped you do? Like did it help you cope or connect, or what would you say?
Yeah, I think definitely coping for sure. But I think also like connecting with myself
I
and like
agree.
connecting with that voice in my head, right? And we talked about this a little bit already, but like training and tricking that voice into being positive
Right.
versus being critical was a game changer for me. And so I would say sort of both.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think it's a lot about care as well. Like, I think I'm a lot, like, I'm not just careful of myself, but I'm caring towards myself. And like the way that I speak to myself, the way that I handle, the way that I give myself space now and give myself that time to like, it's okay, it's completely fine kind of situation. It's definitely I'm caring towards myself, caring towards my body. And so I think it's all three aspects kind of help with this pledge. And so like CopeCareConnect actually offers a lot of services in terms of like people who are struggling, in terms of counseling services, and all of that's free. And so, to anybody who is listening, to all of us, if any of us do need that help, Cope.Care.Connect is there with a lot of resources in terms of counseling, in terms of we even have like the hub where you could just pop in just for a little chat. And we have a lot of different pledges on there too. So I'm hoping that you can also go ahead and choose a different pledge this time and just do it and see the benefits of that. But is there anything else you want to say, Haley, adding on to the positive self-talk?
I don't think so. I loved debriefing this with you. I think it was really cool to like go through it kind of together.
Yeah.
And I think maybe like moving forward, if I do decide to do another pledge or if I decide to continue to do this one, it'll be cool to see if I can get some of my friends to like do it at the same time
Right? Yes.
so that we can kind of share in this like extra reflection piece of like how has this actually changed the
Yeah.
way that I think of myself. And I'm definitely going to be suggesting this to friends,
Yeah.
especially if they, you know, come to me with concerns. So
I agree completely. I think that having a group of friends that's also prioritizing their health is just kind of motivates you to do the same. So definitely doing it with friends. I did it with my friends too. It would just be like a reminder one of us would send at night, like make sure you do your pledge, make sure you write this down, and it really did help us all connect better because when we were discussing this, it just made us all realize about each other and how anybody could be struggling with anything, and sometimes it's really hard to know. So but again, good thing is that there are people out there. You know, we have CopeCareConnect, we have counselors, we have friends, we have professors, we have teachers. People are there to help, and we just have to, take that step forward and find it. But yeah,
yeah, I really, really enjoyed this little conversation, Aruba. I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me.
no worries, no worries. Thank you so much, Haley, for joining us today. And thank you so much for everybody else who is listening. And we will see you guys next time.